Right.
Awesome. Cool. Well, welcome everybody. This is the CG Pro podcast, episode 2. Very happy to welcome Scott Rosekrans tonight. He's a good friend of mine, and we've worked together a bunch, mostly at Zoic. Scott is an amazing CG artist, virtual production enthusiast, and virtual production supervisor at Zoic Studios. It's a really diverse and great generalist. And with that, I will hand it over to you, Scott, or say welcome to you, and give you the opportunity to say hi and anything you'd like to say about yourself.
Yeah, it's mine now. The podcast is all
Is
mine.
that's it? Yeah, you're in control.
Yeah. So
Enjoy the hour.
we gotta get you guys like an intro track or something, like you get some some 80s
Or
hair
some
metal going,
music.
like get a radio DJ voice.
Yeah, I was
No,
just thinking about like maybe some kind of boxing intro. Having that kind of
there you go.
you could come in on camera with a cape
Mm-hmm.
and
A
some
little,
dry
little
ice.
flashy for me. I was like, I was gonna go with like something self-deprecating, like the Nickelback of CG supervisors or something. Like, no, welcome. Thanks for streaming me. I think so. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. It's nice to get the chance to talk about work. Because normally I'm working about work, So it's always fun to peel the lid up and take a peek and look back, look forward, look all over the place. And yeah, I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. Yeah, great to have you here. Thanks for joining us. Yeah, so why don't we start off? Just tell us a little bit about yourself and your kind of journey in CG so far.
Sure. Yeah. And like you said, it does involve you. And I wanted to mention something, by the way. We'll get to that. But I noticed, having, interacted with you recently, that you've got a title in your IMDb that is also in my IMDb that I did not realize that we were both working on at the time. It's Gem and the Holograms.
Oh, really?
That
Yeah,
old,
absolutely. Yeah, the
the
classic. Yeah.
star-studded classic, top of the line blockbuster film, Gem and the Holograms.
Yes, that actually kicked Harry Potter off one of our promo images at some point. We're like, yeah, that's the way it should be.
Yes, of course. Yeah. No. Yeah. So yeah. Yeah. Been working at Zoic for about 15 years now. It feels like it's probably close to 14, but it feels, I've been there a long time. And I know that's a rare-ish kind of thing in the industry these days. A lot of people, make a lot of moves and stuff. But really enjoyed it. I've enjoyed every year. I started out there as a intern, actually, in I think it was 2007. It was 2007. It was an intern and rigging. I was just a
Hmm.
lowly rigger, not even good enough to call like a TD yet, And so when I started there, and this is, it's a series of being lucky, right? When I started there, the whole pipeline was moving away from Lightwave very slowly towards Maya. So I was one of the first Maya people working there and helping to get, well, I wasn't one of the first, but I was one of the few technical people rigging, doing that type of stuff in Maya, and just lucky enough to get to work with some really talented animators early on, and then became like the go-to TD for rigging and stuff like that as the Maya pipeline sort of grew. And it just kind of kept sticking around, and coming back and working on more projects. And so for about 5 years, though, I feel like I was the only person rigging at Zoic. And then it got, the Maya pipeline exploded to the point where we, were starting to do a lot more work. And then that was also around the same time that a lot of work was headed up to Vancouver and stuff. I didn't want to make the jump or make the switch. So, well, I had to make a switch. I didn't want to switch cities. So I ended up changing my career path a little bit and growing out. The rigging work wasn't always there. So I started doing some lighting work, some effects work, character effects, all that stuff, and just really moving more towards a generalist role. And just basically anything I could do to stick around. I really, I enjoyed Zoic, and I always have. And, just
Yeah,
anything I could
great
do to,
studio.
yeah. And so, yeah, so like I became a generalist, working on everything, just doing whatever I could. I would jump from project to project to project, TV, commercial, it didn't matter. all kinds of stuff. And then I think there was a moment where, again, got lucky. There was a project that came. We had to hire a CG supervisor on the fly. It was late, last minute. Things didn't go great, or I can't remember exactly what it was, but I had the opportunity and the chutzpah to go to my supervisor and say, or the head of production, and be like, hey man, give me a chance. I want to, I could supervise better than what just happened here. So just lucky enough. And they were like, yeah, we'll give you, I took a tiny commercial and supervised that. And that was, the rest is history, as they say, and been supervising pretty much ever since. CG supervising mainly the commercial department. Loved it. Love that type of work. I love TV too. And I'm happy to be back working in the virtual production, real-time stuff, working with television once again, and still doing commercial stuff as well. But yeah, that the past few years have just been in the commercial department and kind of hanging out quietly, and just heads up to everyone listening and watching here. I know this is on Facebook Live. I am not on Facebook, so if you guys want to reach out and reconnect or whatever, I have a Facebook account for this for the Oculus, and that's about it. And so yeah, hit me up on LinkedIn, hit me up on Instagram. I believe I can get back into that one day. I've got a new phone and it's gone now. But anyways, the career took a turn like everyone's did last year. I think everyone had something take a turn at the last year when with the shutdown. We had there's a creative director in the commercial department, Julian Brahmi, who's super talented. And a very smart guy, and he had been pushing Unreal on Zoic for a while and trying to get us to utilize it. And he, reached out to Epic, and we found some classes. Him and I were taking, I think, what you could call the alpha program of what is now the fellowship. Him and I were taking classes over at Epic. I think we signed up through like some Eventbrite website, and we were just kind of, Zoic called them and worked out a deal, and we just went over and took just these random classes where we're learning the ropes in Unreal. And this was 2019 or so. And then we were starting to do more and more and more. And then the shutdown happened and virtual production became a thing. Everyone was really into it. The show that we all know came out, and I'm going to try to get all the way through this without even mentioning that, by the way. So I'll try not to say it out loud. But no, and so it was jump right in head first. Everybody, do everything you can to learn as much about this as fast as possible. And then I had the, again, lucky advantage of getting a head start, an early start. And by 4 to 5 months, I've already been working in it and stuff. People were looking to Julie and I to answer the questions of how do we do this and how does this work. And so we just kind of pivoted from the CG supervisor into full-time real-time supervisor. And then and so we were working in Unreal, doing a lot of, just like previous style stuff. And then again, got lucky. We Zoic teamed up with a company to get a LED wall, and we ended up doing, we were doing some testing and stuff, and reached out, got contacted by an ad agency to do a shoot, a virtual production shoot, a commercial shoot, and it went. It was extremely stressful, fly by the seat of your pants, trial by fire, but it was great. It worked out beautifully. Like it was a lot of fun, and it was a lot of work. It was a lot of stress, a lot of learning curves and stuff. And wish you could do it again, because there's so much that we know now, and it's improved. I mean, just in the year since we've been doing it, the technology, like all the attention it's been getting has kind of pushed the tech so far that it's like things that took us an entire day to set up are like click of a button. So, be happy to get back out there and do it again. But so I think that kind of leads us into, we wanted to talk about a little bit about, virtual production, and less about me, right? Like I don't,
No, I think it's a great way to get into it, though, because all of this stuff is a very human story, and there's probably going to be people watching this who are really interested in virtual production, but also curious about how could they get into it, and what knowing about someone else's path, I think, is definitely for me getting into CG in the first place. A lot of it was about that. It was about meeting real people and hearing real stories about what their journey was. So I think a lot of the things that you've shared already are there's probably people in this audience who are at the beginning of their careers and really interested in hearing about how you broke into it and understanding that journey of going in as an intern, with the not a guarantee but the chance that it may lead to something, and then but the story of how, and there's echoes of my own path in there as well, where there was moments of kind of definite uncertainty and risk and like stepping up to the plate where it was maybe slightly ahead of where I was, but just just reasonable enough. And then it was like,
Mm.
okay, now you're in to this bit, and then you can
Yeah.
kind of season and take a hold. And it was a series of, for me as well, a series of those kind of jumps, leaps of faith
Hmm.
and courage, but lots of hard work and surrounding yourself with the right people. And I think it's really really great to reinforce that for anybody, because there's always, even if you're already in, there's always more steps to go, and ambition and place things that you want to accomplish, and just to remember that it's all about those moments of kind of like flying by the seat of your pants and risky, like not being totally sure of where you are, but then like in something takes hold and you get a spark of interest about something, and that's sounds like it's been multiple steps for you as it
Yeah.
has been for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's that's thank you for bringing that up. That's a good point. I mean, I tell my students this all at Noman all the time, is that, there had been this, it's been broken down since, but there had been this mythos of like the supervisors coming from a specific background of like lighting or, comp, it's a natural progression into those sort of supervisory roles and stuff. But rigging, like going from like a rigging background to, CG supervisor, even on set VFX stuff, and it was a weird trajectory, but there is no wrong path, there's no wrong way to go about it. So yeah, there was a moment, like you were mentioning the possible diversions and stuff. There was a moment when I would, as a TD, was faced with the choice of like growing into more of a generalist role or just buckling down and diving headfirst into the Python stuff and just going full TD and, getting super. We'd be having a completely different conversation here today, but I
Yeah.
really enjoyed. I think it all came down to, and it wasn't like a career. It didn't feel like a career choice or a money choice or anything like that. It was like an interest choice. I was
Yeah.
like, I'm more interested in learning how the entire CG pipeline goes, because that was back when I was still starting to understand CG like as a whole, of like, this is really the you break any given object and, into its core elements and replicate it inside a computer. And so it's like that was like super interesting to me. And it was branching out from like breaking down how things move and how things animate and deform and things like that, and replicating that. I felt like I had a firm grasp on that. I wanted to now do the lighting side of things or the effects side of things and learn that kind of, just break things down and take a look at the whole world through a different lens.
Yeah, it's an amazing career to be in, I think, because you get to, everything that you have to replicate, you have to study and understand,
Yeah,
and getting to know like how hummingbird wings work, or just really obscure things like that, or engines, or whatever it is. You have to
it's
really
so
really understand the
wild.
world. Yeah.
It's so wild, the amount of random stuff that we know so much about given the projects that you work on. It's just
Mm.
like it could be anything any given day. Like I know a ton of stuff about the Bible, even though having gone to a private Catholic school. I mean, there was a job a few years ago we did with it was a lot of Bible references, and we had to go through that whole thing. I was like, oh yeah, this is vaguely familiar. But
I
yeah,
think, was that the one we worked on together?
I believe
The
you were
big
there for that.
screen.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I remember that one.
Which kind of counted as virtual production. I mean, it was like it's
Yeah,
in the realm. It
yeah,
was, it was God, I want to say it was 5 or 6 8K projector screens all stitched together. So our final delivery was like an 11K by 3K QuickTime, which was just insane. But yeah, that was that was an installation. But yeah, and it was, it was stylized, it was cell shaded, it was wild at the time. And like, had we been in Unreal Engine already, it would have been perfectly like ripe for that.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah. So I mean, I want to get into away from the topic of me and us or whatever, but like start talking a bit about the virtual production and stuff. And then I know that's a hot topic on everybody's minds, on everybody's tongues. But yeah, like I did want to touch on a little bit like the history, right? Because we had talked about how like and Zoic has a rich and storied past with virtual production. And we had touched on briefly how like it's not new, right? Like it's the hot topic recently, and people are very interested in it, and that's amazing, and we're excited about it, and that's great. But at risk of it becoming like flavor of the month, like we just want people to understand that it's a tool. It always has been a tool, and it will continue to be a tool, and that tool is going to evolve, right? And so yeah, I wanted to talk a little bit about that, and like just kind of dive into the history that Zoic has with virtual production, and just kind of give a brief overview of that. And
Awesome. Yeah.
to like I think it probably started way before then, but it was really the Once Upon a Time saga where it kind of exploded. And this has been like 10 years now. Like Once Upon a Time was 2011, and it was
I worked on that one too.
Yeah, I did you couldn't
Most
have been
people
in
worked on
Zoic.
that one.
Yeah, you couldn't have been there at some point without having worked on that. That one got everybody.
Yeah.
But it was really cool, and it was really fun, and it was challenging. But the stuff that broke through, like the amount of shots that we were able to push through in 3 weeks, was just insanity. Like forget quality, forget story, like just the show as an experience. It's just like it was crazy. It was awesome. But yeah, like it was, we were doing what we're doing now on, LED walls, just with just the same tech, just a little bit different. I want to say it was 10 years ago. We were using it was a live green screen, replacements, and the only difference I think now that people have the LED walls is that the actors can now see the screen in the world and be entrenched in it as well. But as far as like directors and production and the art department and all that stuff, they had a clear window into the world of Once Upon a Time, even though they were on a giant green screen stage, because we had a Lightcraft system, which I think is still around. Actually, I think it's not, Stagecraft is ILM's thing. This is Lightcraft, which was the prime driver for what was called Zeus, the Zoic.
Yep.
Shit, I'm gonna botch the name now that I'm on. But it was the live. It's called Zeus, and it had a very old school primitive. I want to say groundbreaking, but the tracking system, it was actually printed out. We had markers like giant, printed on paper, and we would literally glue them to pieces of cardboard and put them throughout the ceiling. And then we had the little camera tracker on our camera that knew exactly where it was throughout the space. And nowadays you've got the Moses and Stipe and OptiTrack, all this other stuff that it works in exactly the same way. It's just you don't have giant, cue readers that like sitting on the ceiling there. You've got these little trackers, and so it's just evolved. Same tool.
Well, I guess the vanishing point kind of has that, or at least with the calibration at the beginning, anyway. Kind of start off registering it with one of those QR code type things, and then go from there.
Yeah, and so yeah, that was like the camera tracking solution. And then we had there was a proprietary gaming engine. It was based off Unity, but it wasn't necessarily Unity. And it was, and this was before the days of before the days of real-time engines in television, right? Or too much of the I don't know, too many productions that were doing it for features, but it's possible. I'm just, like I said, I've been in a bubble my whole career, so working in television, we have these quick turnarounds, So yeah, there was the engine was loaded, or the sets were loaded through the engine into an iPad and displayed on monitors and displayed in the camera and stuff. And so there was real time keying happening. And when you looked on set, and you could actually just, same as you can do with the LED walls now, you can design your shot. You could change things around. You couldn't change the lighting, because that was like, it was such a long time ago. We had to actually bake the lighting in to get the optimization and the performance in. So it was, the textures and lighting, everything was baked. And as much as we could projection map things onto primitive objects, that's what we did, but as long as we got that story across, so that you can, turn the camera on, aim it at an actor on a green screen stage, and you get the set and live behind it. That was, what it was all about, really. And so we would record that and send it off to editorial right away. You just like we're doing now with the virtual production stuff. And then, we had a truck and trailer system set up eventually. It took a while to get there, but we had a truck and trailer system set up where the tracking was the camera data that was recorded straight from camera would go through compositing, rendering out the sets and push it through compositing. So where like we could literally go from, a shot that was recorded on set, push it through the tracking department, which the tracking data was mostly there, just needed some cleanup, and then push the renders out, and then push the comp out, and barely any artists had to touch most of that stuff. But that's how we got through, delivering 300 plus shots in a 3-week time turnaround to get this show out the door, and without that sort of setup. And credit to I think it was Mike Romy designed and developed most of the pipeline at Zoic back at those days. And he's an incredibly talented superstar brain power. Like he's been a Disney Imagineer and NVIDIA since then. I mean, he's just like, he's out there making all of our lives better. But yeah, huge credit to him back in those days for setting a lot of that stuff up and developing a lot of that workflow. And we're all still kind of, just working from an evolution of what he was doing all those years ago.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's funny because I was there through some of that anyway. I was kind of coming in and out as a freelancer, but I hadn't really thought of it in that way before. And I was like, yeah, absolutely, it was way before any of this. Definitely it didn't exist in Unreal, and even before that, and earlier experiments through other engines. It was very pioneering, and yeah, really I think important to remember that, and remember that going back to other experiments that people have done, like even in Lord of the Rings, going back to early VCam work, and this basically the takeaway is that this is not new, that this has been around for a while, that it's evolving, and that there's been some massive leaps forward in terms of the technology. Like some of the things I've got to been lucky to work on, like Lion King and General Burke and those kinds of things. But it and then the whatever digital equivalent of Macbeth that we're not allowed to mention, that show. That's what it's become. Don't say Macbeth. You can't say that. You can't say that now. But yeah, that the those things have pushed it, and I think the amazing thing that is in existence now is that this stuff is accessible to everybody. It's not, you don't have to have a big team of engineers and a studio to pull this off. It's actually in people's hands. Like anyone could download Unreal and benefit from like, now it has a home for everyone, which I think is the really big difference now.
Yeah, and keyword being home. I mean, you're like, I'm at home and I can get into Unreal. I can put on the VR headset. I can call up Julian or any one of the other artists. We can call up the scene and we can get in there and we can block out cameras and VR and stuff. And it's insane. It's the same process, the stuff that you were doing with John Verver on that Macbeth show. No. But the same stuff you were doing for the Lion King, like I can do in my living room now. It's insane. So like the tools and the technology are always going to advance, but it's the workflow, and then this, like I've listened to your last podcast, the story is the thing that drives it, so like
cool.
It's great to have the tools are great, but good frames can't save bad paintings, right? I say that's I say that all the time. It's that you've got to have a good product, and you got to love it. You got to really enjoy what you're doing. And that's all of this, that learning Unreal, working in virtual production, and which we'll talk about the scope of what that actually means in a minute, but like that's really given me a new sort of surge and energy and excitement. And like I feel like it's crazy because like we all go through lulls and we all go through spurts and fits and spurts of energy and stuff. And like I don't know, I felt like when I was a young child. When I went to school, though, it was you're sold on all this, like how cool working in the industry is and how cool all the tech is, and look at all these movies. It was
Yeah.
Spider-Man was just came out when I was in college, and it was like, look how cool Spider-Man is and all this cool shit that Sony's doing. And it's like, yeah, and you think it's going to be a certain way when you get into it, and then the reality sets in of like, oh, there's pipeline, there's workflow, there's rules, there's standards, and that it all has to exist, don't get me wrong, and there's a good reason for it, and even like the smallest studios need some sort of standards and regulations and rules and things like that, or they will not survive because they'll just be chaos. But a lot of that can tend to create repetition and just kind of have can, not to any fault of the pipeline, but it can suck a little bit of the fun out of it. And this has given it a resurgence of like, oh, I can get in here, and I'm a previs artist, but I can change the lighting. I can I can do all kinds of stuff, and it's not, it's not as regimented where it's like, all right, step A is done, it goes to step B now. Like in step B, artists step in and do their thing, and it's like we are all sort of becoming more generalist. I hope. I don't know. Like I said earlier, I enjoyed the evolution into being a generalist, and I enjoy touching every bit of the CG process. And so this is kind of given me that resurgence. If you're not a generalist, or if you don't, maybe if you just want to do lighting and that's it, that's great. Maybe this is not for you, but I have met people that are like, I love lighting in Unreal. And that's all I want to do. And that's great too. And so there will, I think, probably eventually be places that have a pipeline that is back to all right, so we've got a clear delineation of tasks, and everyone's going to be doing their specific role. Right now, though, it's a bit of like, everybody get in the pool. It's time to party, so
Right.
yeah.
Which is where all of this began as well. In most of the studios that are now have gone more towards specialisms and more of a kind of pipeline or production line approach, which is, as you said, necessary. They kind of started off more as pirate ships, and some of them literally call themselves pirates. But like that kind of idea that you're a smaller team, you're all involved, you're all able to kind of be in that kind of small group innovation R&D kind of space, which was definitely what it was like on Lion King. We didn't really figure out how to make a movie until it was made, until it was done. By the end of it, we felt like we kind of knew what was going on. But
Yeah.
it's a wonderful time to be in that mode. As you said, it may evolve and change, but maybe that's a good point to sort of talk about some of the things that you think make for good qualities. I know that actually, to mention that you guys are hiring, Zoic is hiring at the moment. So it's like a plug for Zoic
Yeah,
there.
thanks
If
for the plug.
anyone's very
And
happy to, I like to connect people. But yeah,
yeah.
if you have a sort of any thoughts on what makes good for good skills to get into this, or how people might approach getting into this kind of thing today.
Yeah, and I mean, thank you for the. I don't want to make it seem like I'm a shill. I really do like love the job that I have, and it's I have you don't stay 15 years in one place if you're not happy, and so like and so it is
Yeah.
one of those places where, and it's the I know that it's that it's a red button kind of thing of like to say that to use the word family, but it does really have that sort of feel to it. And I love the people I work with, and there's been a lot of people that, not just me, that have been there for as long as I have too. So it and I don't know, I've heard from people like you and other people. I wouldn't know just being on the inside, but kind of the outside perspective, they're like, it is a little different. They're like, it is
Yeah.
so yeah,
I
thank you
definitely
for the.
felt that way, and I really enjoyed. Yeah, you're welcome. I've definitely enjoyed all of the time I've spent at Zoic, and got to work on some really cool and fun and innovative projects. And they have that spirit of wanting to try something new, wanting to explore and experiment. And I think that comes from the leadership and in valuing creative and technological exploration, which it's easy to kind of move away from when you start finding a thing that works,
Right.
and get really stuck into that and just do that over and over. But probably a testament to why it's a great place to work, and also why it's been successful, is that it does have that edge, and wants to keep exploring, which
Yeah.
people who don't do that don't tend to do as well, even individuals that don't do that. And so anyway, sorry.
And no, yeah, and a lot of it comes from the artist. Like I said, Julian was one of the ones pushing for Unreal early on, and they were responsive. They were listening to it, so it's a good, but yeah, and I do want to touch on like sort of some of the tips and techniques to kind of break in, if whatever. But before I do that, I want to more broadly define like what we're calling virtual production, because I don't think it's
Yeah.
fully clear all the time for everybody, and everyone's got their own sort of definition, and we kind of we broaden our umbrella a little bit just because of our vast history with it. And so there is, and Julian and we give this talk fairly regularly, because we're talking to lots of other companies and stuff, but it's what we all know, right? It's the LED walls, the virtual production, that it's been defined very recently, very rapidly, and it's very cool. There is that portion of the umbrella, and we have some experience in that. We're looking to get more experience in that, and we're looking to do more work in that. We also, there's the live broadcasts thing that can fall under virtual production. That's the weatherman style stuff. There's still lots of opportunities to work in that industry. There's lots of, like, every bit of live sports, and tons of broadcast opportunities out there. So that's all virtual production. There's also what a lot of places are still calling previs. We started out calling it previs, but it didn't feel like big enough of a term, right? Because previs has traditionally been one thing, and this is definitely not that. And it's previs, it's tech viz, it's virtual scouting, it's sitting down with production and teaming up. And that's why we're calling that side of work virtual production, because it's making us feel more ingrained with production. We're all at home still, and that's we have no timetable for coming back to the office. It's been working out beautifully. We're all more efficient, and we're all really enjoying working from home. And so we're gonna as long as we can, I think, keep this up. And who knows what's going to happen? Maybe we'll be back in office soon. I don't know. But for now, at least, I think it's an advantage, actually, because we're able, as the post-production company, to get in earlier than we were, at least from my perspective, with the production team. And because we're tech scouting, we're doing all this stuff, so to us that's also virtual production, because we are in the production side of things very early on. Like, what we'll do is we'll get an early draft of the script. Maybe we'll get an opportunity to talk to a producer or art department or anybody, director, sometimes before going in and building out a scene or a set. But we'll call up the engine, and with whatever information we have, we'll put a scene together, a level and sub levels, do some lighting, and we'll creative direction from either one of the creative directors, the supervisors, whoever is involved with that project, and we'll block out like a sequence of cameras. We'll get lens information from production if we can, and then we'll sort of kind of craft what our vision of this scene or this show is going to be. And then we'll get on a Zoom call with the production team. And this could be directors, it could be producers, the art department, it could be anybody, DP, and we enjoy as many people as we can get into there. And then we'll go through a process of like blocking out the shot, and then it can work as tech viz. Sometimes we'll have stunt guys in there saying, hey, how far away is this car to that side of the bridge or whatever, so we know how much rope that we need to run when we're in our green screen shoot. We'll bring in, we've done this on Superman and Lois. We scanned the green screen stage, right? And so it's the opposite of, the virtual production we were doing 10 years ago, where we're putting virtual environments on a green screen wall. We're now putting green screen stages inside of our virtual scenes, right? But it helps us block things out. We can line up different cameras with the directors and say, okay, technically, if we wanted to shoot, a reverse of this, we need to kind of move this car, whatever it is they need to do. So bringing in LiDAR has been super, super helpful. And then we'll go through and we'll block out a scene and direct. There's been times I've gotten on with a director and they're like, oh, whoa, this is completely wrong. We don't ever take the camera outside. We're only inside the apartment, and it just changes the whole thing. But it's great to get that information right away. Like, we don't have to go 2 rounds of previs before someone says, hey, wait, this is completely wrong, right? We get it, before we even start previs, right? And so the iteration has cut down on time. It's allowing production to be faster. It's allowing, everyone to be more, and it really, like, it ups the trust value. It's a lot of these productions, they're busy doing production, right? And so when it's done, it's wrapped, they shoot it off to as many vendors as they can or have to or whatever, and then they call it a day. And now it's like, they know us, they trust us, and they know, having been on the phone with us so early and gone through the process of blocking out the entire scene, they know with confidence that it's going to come back version 1, version 2, looking almost as good as it needs to. And there's it really has streamlined everything from the beginning to the end of the process. And it's awesome because it's helping to push the engine further integrated into our pipeline even further, because it is such a awesome tool. And so it's not just virtual production on the LED wall. It's like, in my mind, it's hopefully going to be taking over the pipeline. It's going to be production soon. It's going to be and we'll see. There's always a need for traditional effects, and but I am really I've been surprised at the speed at which we've been able to get it integrated into our pipeline as far as we have. And I really was thinking, like, cool, I'm going to do previs for the next couple of years and that's it. And it's like, really quickly, it was like, no, we're not just doing previs here. We're doing final pixels. We're doing background renders. We're doing, pulling in green screen, pulling keys and running plates through the engine and doing temps for editorial and things like that. And then so it's awesome. The amount of work, and pretty much everything we can throw at the engine. It's like, okay, it's not, fully fleshed out because it's a game engine. It wasn't designed for this, but hey, they're paying attention. And Epic's been such an amazing partner, in all of this, because they listen, they pay attention, and they've got people dedicated to us. They've got people dedicated to the integration of visual effects as a whole. They're paying attention and they're responsive, and it's awesome. So yeah, that's, I don't know, I'm getting off track and you're just starting to like glow about everybody.
Gosh, no, it's great. I feel the same way as you. Like, definitely had some sort of crazy beginning to my career, just so much energy and excitement, and then some times where it's sort of leveled off a little bit and gone up again. And this is another time where it's really kicked up. And if a lot of people I talk to in the industry feel the same way about this new, well, sort of evolved tool set and this time, because it wasn't really possible to do all of this before. And then, where you would be able to do some of it, like you were saying with the early versions of this that Zoic were involved in, now it's possible to up the quality. Even what we did on the Lion King, now what you can do now is way better in terms of lighting and fidelity of everything. It's just getting more and more and more, being able to allow all the filmmakers in to make those decisions, all of the people that used to be sort of excluded from that conversation, or it was very abstract before. They wouldn't be able to be in there and get stuck in. Now they can actually, you can ship a headset to a client and have them be in there for a scout. There's something kind of amazing about that. Being able to play and play together, it's kind of like brought a lot of fun back to that process where it did get a bit stuck and formulaic. Now the fun's kind of come back into it again. Was that how I see it? Yeah.
I guess the greater takeaway for me, it's like we were talking about defining virtual production. It's becoming production. It's because you know, and that's the thing. It's like virtual production is not just shooting an LED wall with tracking systems. It is becoming production. It's becoming how we work and how, you know, because it's evolving. It's that, you know, and the productions are waking up to it. They're embracing it wholeheartedly. You know, another shout out, more gushing coming, but the team at Superman and Lois have been, you know, they from day one they were like, this is awesome. This is how everything should work. You know, we love doing this, and then it has really benefited that show greatly, immensely. So yeah,
it's working.
yes, it
It's
is.
not just a cool trick.
And
It's
that
actually
would,
genuinely working.
yeah. And if you were to ask like advice to people looking to get into it, I mean, it's just really like keep doing what you're doing. If you're don't know anything about CG, you know, pick a career path or pick something that you're interested in. If it's things moving, or if you're, you know, into sculpting or drawing and things like that, you know, however you get in, or you know, whatever your interests are, stick with that, because it's, you know, I started out, I had to learn a little bit of Lightwave just because of like, you know, that was the tool that everyone was using at the studio I started working at. But I was trained in Maya, you know, and had a long career on that software. But I learned more things, more softwares, mostly plugins over the years, and you know, you learn how, you know, to utilize different things, but always came back to Maya. And now it feels like it doesn't really matter what software you can use. Blender, you can use Houdini. There's like I took Houdini classes back in 2004, 2003 and stuff, and it was just really, I was way too complicated for me. And now it's like I've come back to Houdini recently. It's like, oh, I don't remember it being this easy and this awesome, you know. Like
Right.
so like, you know, the software will always, you know, evolve and always get better. The hardware will always get better, and it's get into what you're into, do what you're gonna do. Just kind of my thing would just, you're never gonna stop learning. You know, like learning Unreal was not the hugest. You know, it didn't have the biggest learning curve for me. It can be, you know, a learning, but the process is the thing that I, you know, that will never change, right? And this is something I tell like my students when I teach dynamics at Noman. I'm talking about, I teach NCloth, and they're like, well, isn't, you know, Marvelous Designer better? I was like, yeah, but it's works on the same fundamental properties as NCloth. And the only difference between NCloth and Marvelous Designer is that NCloth exposes all of those attributes and allows you to noodle it, and you can use it for so much more than just cloth. Marvelous Designer does a damn good job. All it does is cloth. And so they lock a lot of those attributes to you because they don't want you tweaking that stuff because it will break the cloth, you know? So like properties, the fundamental, you know, way that things work, that the world works, are not going to change, you know? So people are smart people that make these smart programs. They have figured out how things work, and they've given you the tools that you need, like, you know, whether it's Bifrost or Niagara or Houdini, whatever it is, they've, you know, the fundamental processes have been figured out, and those are going to be, you know, and there's tutorials out there that'll show you how to do it, so you can do pretty much anything with enough time, practice, and failing, you know. And it's really just, if you're going to be happy in the industry, you got to do what you want to do, you know. Just
Right.
find out what makes you happy, and that's really just about trying a bunch of different things, you know. Try it and fail, try it and fail.
Right. Yeah. Notice what. Excuse me. Notice what speaks to you. Right. Notice what's calling you to it, because it's
Yeah.
different for all of us. Some people love
Mm-hmm.
doing, I don't know, whatever it is, accounting or looking after people in hospitals. Like there's different things that call to people, but you're never going to experience that spark of what's really, really calling you to it without trying a lot of stuff. I say exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Try, experiment. That's a great advice. Yeah, so wondering if there's anything you can talk about. I don't know, there's probably things that you can't talk about. Drinking water, that's a good idea.
Yeah, totally. Sorry.
Yeah, no, thank you for reminding me. Is there anything that you can talk about to do with any favorite projects that you've worked on? I know you've mentioned Superman. Any that really stuck out to you, like virtual production wise?
Well, yeah, I mean, there was they've all been unique and awesome and interesting. They've all presented a new challenge, and it's always fun. And I could probably say that about every project. There's not been one that I'm just
Yeah.
like, I know exactly how to do this. I could do it with my eyes closed and one hand tied behind my back, So, but no, the I think the coolest thing that we were able to do last year, and again, credit to Epic for allowing this to happen, was the mega grant, and that was our mega grant was the whole like thesis behind it was to integrate the engine into our pipeline. And what that meant was, a lot of tool building, a lot of documentation. We have like the sickest SharePoint, bro. Like there's a lot of information that got transcribed over those days. But the other thing, and we're bringing it back to people and shared experiences, it was we used a lot of it to train up as many people as we could. We were trying to keep people off of furlough during the shutdown, and keep as many people employed and around as possible when production was shut down all over the world. And it really allowed us to facilitate like the learning, and that it really helped us now. And there's an argument to say, well, that's not directly pipeline. It is, because people are pipeline. There is no pipeline without the user to use it, right? So we have a workflow now for doing effects and Niagara and stuff, and we Houdini into the engine. We have a workflow now for doing scanning, digital scanning and LiDAR and things like that, and that's very well documented, and we have tools to support it, and we have the people with a knowledge base that went into kind of making that, and seeing everybody just say, all right, our normal production lives are done for a little bit. Nobody knew how long it was going to last, how long we were going to be shut down, and so it was like literally everybody was trying something new, and it was just cool to see the excitement and the energy of a chat room of 60 people with everyone posting tutorials and like tips and tricks and like, hey, I found this. Oh, and like, look, there's another way to control exposure. And it's like, how many damn ways can we control exposure in this program? And
Lots.
Is the answer. But like, just the excitement and not, yes, the tools are awesome. The pipeline is awesome. It's great that we're now using it in almost every facet of our pipeline, but just the energy that brought the people that I have never worked with I've worked at Zoic for 15 years. They've worked at Zoic Vancouver for the 6, 7, 10, however many years, and people in our New York office and stuff where we work together enough, like we're on projects where we're sharing files and things like that, and we have people that work on shows in both places. But this really was like, all the walls were down and everyone was in the same party. We were just there. I was talking to people and hanging out with people. I've made so many new connections. I've made old connections, people that I used to work with and that had moved to Vancouver, and I haven't seen them in years, and been working with them every day and rediscovered these old relationships. It was awesome. So that one, whatever the work that came out of that looked like, it wasn't about that. It was about the the experience of that project. So that was a fun one that stood out to me.
Awesome.
Yeah,
that's super cool. Yeah, congrats again on that. It's great piece of work. So how do you feel like this is kind of influencing the overall, or virtual production is influencing the overall world of visual effects from your perspective? Like how it's kind of creeping out. You've mentioned how it's affecting some of the things that were in the domain of visual effects from previs all the way through to final pixels, but like is it influencing any more of the, like, is it creeping onto other people's desks? Is it affecting some of the ways that things were done traditionally and changing them?
Yeah, well, the interest is certainly there, and like now that production's back in full swing, over swinging, and we're just it's really
Catching
busy.
up.
Yeah, it's definitely a rubber band effect going on. It's hard to get people to the time to sandbox as much as when we were completely shut down. So we go back to our old ways a little bit, but yeah, the interest is definitely there, and when the opportunity presents itself, we are pushing and R&Ding and sandboxing, into the engine. And so yeah, the real, when you say virtual production, I mean, we're really talking like the real time stuff. And so, the real timeness of it all, it has the potential to transform, traditional workflows and upset traditional workflows, and it won't completely replace it. No. But I don't think that's the point. It's again, everything's an evolution, right? We're trying to push the entire thing forward. So, I mean, if all it does is make it so that we never see a gray shaded animation play blast again, that's enough.
Yes.
But no, it is really pushing everything a little bit forward, and then so there will be a day, and I guess we can kind of like, if you're asking me to kind of predict the future and kind of interject like
Yes.
or see where
Who's
we're
going to win the Super Bowl?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I don't know. I want to see, and with the evolution of things, I think we can only get faster. We can only, like, we're already at a point with visual effects where there's almost nothing that can't be visualized, and visualized greatly and amazingly. It's just going to get faster. It's going to get better. And I have a prediction in that I want to make really quick is that I think, and this
You
is
heard it here first, everyone.
yes, it's a far off thing, but like because when we talked about this earlier, where like it's the analysis of real world things, real world like events, or how things are put together and how things operate, and fundamental like properties of stuff. There's gonna be a day where the technology or and the the just the brains behind figuring out how to make it in CG, I feel like there's got to be a discovery that gets made by an artist as opposed to a scientist, and we're informing science, and I feel like that's got to be inevitable, in maybe not this year, next year, or whatever, but like it's getting like it's to the point where it's that good. There's so much good effects out there where like if you look back 10, 15 years ago, we were just figuring out how to replicate like humans, and it was not great at first. So now we've done that, and
still
so
challenging, but yeah,
still absolutely. But there are some companies that are just amazing at it and getting specialized better and better every year, and this technology is helping push that forward, and their proprietary technologies are helping push that forward, and so yeah, I don't know, I feel like it'd be really cool to see that headline one day where they say VFX artist discovers this about something
about the world. I
yes,
see what
exactly.
you mean. Yeah, like it sort of always thought about science fiction in that kind of way, like how basically in that case an artist would invent something and then scientists would think that was cool and then spend the next 20 years trying to create that, and
Yeah,
it may
totally.
not have existed if it hadn't have been for an artist in the first place, dreaming and imagining what's possible without thinking of the limits of the technology. Yeah,
Totally. But yeah, as it relates to like the more near future type stuff, is I think one of the things that I would like to try to get into once we get back onto a virtual production stage is incorporating live action CG characters into the wall, right, and into a volume, right, and I know the technology for this was there 10 years ago when we were working on that Likecraft system. I remember doing a test with Mike Romy where I had an animated character, FBX, just playing sort of on a loop in the green screen stage environment, and we could kind of place him in there and put him near like our live action actors and things like that. It was a lot of work. It was kind of clunky, didn't work great. So ultimately, on these fast turnaround productions, we decided to bail on that. But that, I mean, shit, we were doing that 10 years ago, and that's something that with this, the whole Mandalorian of it all. I'm sorry, I said it. I did it.
oh, I knew it was going to happen.
But like that's
It's okay, we love
I
the
don't know if
Mandalorian.
they've done it particularly. There's people that have worked on it. They could probably let me know in the comments or whatever. But I haven't quite yet seen that. I want to get somebody in a mocap suit driving a CG character inside of a volume, interacting live with a character on the other side of the screen, being recorded. So like whether it's, an enemy, a dragon, or just something cute or whatever, like that would be cool. Like the technology's there. You can live link into end display. You can, put an XN suit in there. And so that's one of the things that I would like to try and push and take it that next step further, because we've got the backgrounds thing down, right? That's all over the place. Everyone can do an amazing, I mean, not everyone, but everyone can do an amazing looking background and drop it into a camera, set up some tracking, and then, make a nice little featurette. But I want to start to see what it looks like to now incorporate, like, not just, characters, but like UI, right? Heads up displays and things like that. How do we display that on a volume and have characters interact with the screen a little bit more, like out live? How do we take that, some of the more traditional things that you're like, oh, well, that now it goes to post, right? Let's continue to take post and put it into now, and see how to push that a little bit farther.
Right. Yeah, it's like becoming more almost like theater than traditional production, where you're actually in there doing it live. You maybe even, you do often have happy accidents happening there more that you end up keeping, because like, well, we wouldn't have necessarily done it that way, but kind of like it. Let's keep it in.
Totally. I mean, how many movies of the comedy movies that are improvised half the time? They're like, we just left it in because it was awesome. So yeah, that can totally happen. And this will like take it away from this controlled thing where it's like you're doing 15 takes and then you send it back, and then now let's go find our flavor of icing that we like of visual effects to go on top of this. And it's like, no, just let it happen. Just put it on the screen and just let the chips fall where they may. And I think, and that's just going to help everybody. It'll help the creatives be creative and find those moments, and it'll help the post-production people not to have to version 55 times.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it makes it more fun, more efficient, more cost efficient. Hopefully, everybody's happy. Yeah, it's really fun. I have had the luck of being able to work in this a bit myself, and I feel the same way. And I know being able to like explore 3D graphics in real time is making it more fun for me, for sure. No, not having to wait. I remember working on commercials where we'd have to wait for a week because of having a small farm, but also having a lot of shots and a lot of render layers and things that were like, my frame wouldn't come back for a week. I couldn't see it for a week. In this world, being able to see it immediately, and the quality of it being probably better than that was as well, being able to see that in real time. Yeah, it's
totally, because I mean it doesn't allow you to make those silly mistakes, right? Like there was I was
so much risk.
I was the guiltiest of, like, I mean, even when I was supervising, I was like when I would jump on the box to help my team out because I was like, oh, we're in the weeds. I'm gonna jump in. I'll take these 10 shots, right? And then you miss one checkbox or one render element and things like that, and you're like, shit, I got to render an entire 10 shots all over again, and they're all 1,500 frames. And so I was the guiltiest of guilty when it came to that kind of stuff. And then they were like, why are we on version 20? It's like, well, I missed a checkbox. But this one,
everything's black. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. But you see it in front of you at all times, and it's it's impossible to miss a checkbox, really. I mean, yeah.
Is there anything in particular that you're really excited about that's coming up, or anything that you'd like to see that I'm not seeing at the moment? Like, what do you see as what's coming next?
What's coming next? Well, I mean, it's the stuff I was talking about. Is bringing that, everything, bringing the rest of the pipeline into the party with us in real time here. Like that kind of stuff is going to be super exciting, and figuring out how that works or what that looks like. I don't know. I'm just hoping to get bought by Epic one day. That's all. Just kidding. No,
they're on somewhat of a shopping spree. So,
dude, yeah, they're just like, let's buy yeah. So, no, one day it'll either be Walmart or Epic, right?
I know which one I'm choosing.
Yeah, it's everything excites me right now. Like I said, I've got that spark again, so it's, I'm happy to be working in CG. If my family's not, I'm spend more time glued to this machine nowadays, and And even when I'm not getting paid for it, I'm just happy to be like doing cool shit and like jumping into VR. Like, that's another place where I'd like to get better ingrained, and the tools I feel like are getting there. It's still a bit,
In terms of virtual production,
yeah.
using it as a tool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like I mean, like I said, for the mega grant and for some of the previous shows, I've been able to jump into the headset, load the scene up, and uh, run some cameras using the joystick or the handheld thing there. But it's very, I need a tool, right? I need a shoulder mount, and I need to put this on the top of a shoulder mount in order to get like that actual um, the camera rig feel of it all, because right now it's just very handheld shaky stuff. I actually found if I grip it a certain way, I find less shake, but yet you still have, at this point you have to pull up take recorder or sequence recorder, and in a separate thing that you outside of the headset, and put the headset on while you're recording the whole time, then do your camera take, and then you come back and edit it. And I know that they're going to make improvements and all of that. We're giving them this feedback, and they're listening, and they're very interested in pushing it and doing more with it. And so, but yeah, that's another place where I'd like to see it evolve. And and the stuff that Matt Workman and those types of people are doing with the DIY work at home sort of indie style movie making, and having more tools in that and seeing more growth in that, because it is really cool. Like the first time you put the headset on and you pop into a scene that you actually assembled yourself, and you can look around and it's like, that's one of those sparking moments where it's like, shit, this is why I got into this industry. This is like, it's so cool. Even if it's as simple as like, grabbing an HDR, just go to like, challenge everybody right now. Like, if you haven't done this yet, do this and it will make you so happy. Go to HDRI Haven, grab an 8K HDR, go to Bridge, get a few mega scans in there, make a tiny little scene, just assemble some stuff that doesn't take you. There's tutorials for all of that, no matter what your level is for Unreal. You can make an HDR, a little assembly of scenes, and then you can turn on the virtual production tools plugin, put a headset on, and get inside of your scene. It's just the feeling is just amazing. It's like, it's holy shit. Like even if it's it's all stuff you stole or borrowed from freebies, it's like, it's really cool to put something together and go, I'm in my creation. So
Super cool. Well, your enthusiasm is infectious for me, and I'm sure for others as well. And it's yeah, that I got into all of this because I liked making real physical things. And I started making things out of cardboard boxes when I was a kid, and it was amazing how kind of interactive that was, how you could get your hands on it. And then got into CG and loved it and still do. But I sort of lost a little bit of that because it was a bit abstracted. And now being able to actually be back in it again and actually do that, that's a wonderful kind of full circle. And yeah, being able to be connected to your work and bring play to it, and yeah, it's really cool.
Totally. Yeah. Even like the sculpting, like there's so many good sculpting tools in VR now too. You can get back and actually feel like you're making something with your hands, and so removing this flat screen, as well as it's treated us over the past 20 or so years, like you get it, sometimes being able to go into that third dimension, it's awesome.
Fantastic. Well, yeah, we're kind of at the hour, so I think
so now it's time to talk about Gem and the holograms, right? Like
yes, now it's time for the serious stuff.
Right.
So did you work on the robot?
I did actually. Yeah, I did the rig and a bunch of animation. I think I even lit some shots. Were you lighting on that?
Made the robot, and
yeah, well there you go.
yeah, so we worked on the same bit. There you go. That's how
Yeah.
the industry goes. You can be working on the same thing and not be aware of it.
Totally. And that was another project, man. It's like, I think everyone in the industry has this story where they've been on a project. You don't know what it's going to be like when it airs or whatever, but it bombed so hard. And so I think everyone's got a story about working on a project that was like a bomb, but it was fun. That was a really fun experience. Like that was one of those, it was like, I'm animating this little robot that's like cute and has its own little character and stuff, and its ears flop around and stuff. Like that shit was fun, and who cares if it bombed, man? My kids love it. My wife loved it. We watched it like, I think a year or so ago. It's been recently enough. And it was like, I don't know why I did so bad, but I mean, whatever. It's campy, but it's fun.
Well, you're encouraging me to watch it. I hate to admit I haven't seen it,
Haven't seen
but
your girls
I
are old
will.
enough. They can handle it. I think.
I'll watch it for them. There you go. I
Yeah.
I agree. The same thing. I really enjoyed working on that as well, and I think that's what this stuff should be about. The end result is amazing, but it's all about the process. You spend so many hours doing the actual work that you should enjoy it. This stuff should be fun.
Yeah.
If it's not, then
Totally.
something's off. And that I think this new tech that we're experiencing is a wonderful way of breathing that life into it. And yeah, seeing a lot of that enthusiasm in people who are involved in it. And
Yeah.
yeah, so
I guess if there's a takeaway from tonight, that's it. There's, do I enjoy Once Upon a Time or Gem and the Holograms as a show? Not really. No, fine, whatever. But did I enjoy working on it? Yes, absolutely, every minute. Like there's, and that's what makes, I think, great art and great, a happy artist is just, enjoy yourself, have fun working on the content, no matter what. I mean, I'm an atheist. I worked on that Bible project with you. I had a fucking blast. It was amazing. Like I was like, great, whatever. I don't care. It's not the content. The it's the art, right? It's the
yeah,
project. So yeah, that's I don't know. That's my tagline.
enjoy your work, folks.
Yes.
Yeah, it's important. You spend most of your life doing it. Why not enjoy it? And you can enjoy a lot of things if you put your heart into it and you find things to enjoy about it. But particularly finding that calling and that thing that really speaks to you. And I think I definitely feel lucky, and I see the same in you, that you found something that lights you up. And yeah, that's a wonderful thing. Well, Scott, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a total pleasure. It's always a pleasure hanging out, but a real pleasure getting to do this in this form as well. And I hope all the viewers
Yeah.
and listeners enjoy it too, as
Yeah.
much as we have.
Thank you for
Um,
having me. I appreciate it greatly. Like I was telling my wife, I'm like, I can't talk to Ed very often because every time, and you're the perfect host because every time we talk to each other, it's 2 hours easily. Like I can't end a conversation with this guy. So yeah, good luck to you with the podcast and everything else. You're doing amazing things.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. Well, maybe we can have you back someday. And yeah, if we're going to keep doing this, we'll have another one up in a couple of weeks. And but yeah, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a total pleasure, and thanks for sharing all of your knowledge and experience and wisdom with everybody. That's a gift, and I appreciate it very much.
Yeah, thank you. Happy to be here. And now I'm gonna go back into hiding. Like I said, I'm
In
not.
VR.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, like I feel free to hit me up on LinkedIn or Instagram or whatever. But like, yeah, I'm not out there too much. So but thank you for having me. It's good to be able to kind of poke my head out into the public a little bit and pull my head out of the sand. So
Awesome. Well, yeah, definitely take him up on it, folks. Zoic are hiring, so check that out if you're interested.
yeah,
And yeah, Scott's once in 10 years social appearance. I hope you enjoyed it. We'll be back in 10 years
yeah.
for another podcast. Yeah, thanks,
All right.
Scott.
All right. Thank you. Cheers,
Have a
everybody.
nice evening. See you soon. And to all of you out there, see you soon too. Take care.